Good morning. I'm sitting here thinking as I'm walking about how many of us, you know what, not even many of us, how I feel. I'm going to tell you how I feel, and maybe this resonates with you. But for my whole life, I have felt this underlying current, this energy that's been locked inside, right? This thing that I'm supposed to do, this giant, massive thing that wants to come out of me. And for a long time I didn't know what it was, but it was always been along the lines of sharing and expressing and being in my, now that I know I have the words, I have the vocabulary for it because of my mentor, Garrain Jones. He talks about being in your fullest, living your fullest expression, right? Expressing what wants to come out. And I think it's true for myself that I've always held myself back. I've never allowed myself to be and step fully into my bigness, right? Because we're told from a very young age to make ourselves smaller, right? Don't be so big. Don't be so loud. Don't calm down. Sit down. Don't stand out, right? All of these things that it's like we're pummeled into being smaller, when the thing that inspires us the most in other people is when we see them in their full bigness, right? We see them in their full expression, whatever that is, and being in alignment with what is in your soul to bring out into the world. And so as I'm diving into this work that I did not know would change my life the way it has and the way it is, been diving into this deep inner child work. Garrain has been such a freaking inspiration and a light, like a beacon of this is what it looks like. To be unapologetically you, to be who you are, to express yourself the way that you express, and to not hold yourself back. I find myself so many times there's this giant thing I want to say and I want to be really fucking loud about it, and then I wait, tone it down, calm down. Let's rein it back in. Let's just squash that down a little bit and make it more palatable to others, right? And many times for me, it has had to do with love, right? And I don't mean just in a romantic love. I mean just I am love. I want to express fucking love because that's what's inside of me to express. And even in reflecting after one of our 3-hour mastermind calls, I was literally, all I wanted to say in response to my takeaway, or one of the things I wanted to say was to Garrain, right? I was like, dude, I love you. I love what you are, how you express, how you share, because you had the courage to be your full self. You're showing me that I can do the same, and how to do the same, what it looks like, what it feels like, right? But even when I went to send that message, there's a part of me that's you don't say that. You don't know him like that. All these reasons and things that you want to stuff back down is but that is not what wants to be expressed, right? Obviously there's other things telling another man that you love him or whatever. There's a connotation. I've realized there's a negative connotation to that for some people. Now I know better, right? I know better, but still there's that thing that wants to be made smaller. And so I feel like I am on this path, and I've been on this path. I've been planting these seeds from, like I said, the earliest age of 13 years old. And these roots have been growing. These roots have been growing. These roots have been growing. And there's been a tree that's been forming, and I haven't even acknowledged these things. It's like we don't realize, or we don't give ourselves credit for how far we've come. And like if I look backwards over my life, like I have done a lot of shit that most people will probably never do in their lives, right? And that's not saying that, oh, I'm better than anyone, but I'm saying like it's not about comparison. It's about realizing what you've accomplished and like giving yourself the credit. And so as I am diving deeper, like I said, into this work with Garrain in this mastermind, with all these beautiful, magical people that I'm getting to connect with, and these are all other really big people, and I'm seeing that each one of them are just so big in their own way. To be in this mastermind, it's a certain caliber, a certain person that was drawn and attracted to this. It's a person that, you know, has this giant message inside, and they want to reach way more people. That's what I'm sensing, you know, and it's a really powerful container to be in. But I'm realizing that as I am stepping into my bigness, my own bigness, like what is wanting to come out of me, like this whole TED Talk thing, this whole message thing, this whole vulnerability thing, message that I have to set people free, all of these things, the biggest, most wildest expression of what I want my life to be, right? It's like, have you ever really thought about if you had everything you wanted, what would that look like? Most of us don't even consider that as a possibility, nor do we give ourselves the true space and energy to like really ponder what that looks like. I had to sit around and think about this. I was like, if I had $1 million in the bank right now, what the fuck would I do with my day, right? What would I be doing if money was not the one of the core things that we're going after? And a lot of people feel like that's it's a luxury to think that way. I have a family to provide for and right? But in reality, you can have your wildest, most fully expressed version of your life, but you have to know what it looks like. You have to give yourself permission to feel and think about what that looks like. You have to feel worthy of it, right? A lot of people don't feel worthy of being in their fullest expression and living their life the way that they've always wanted to, they've longed for, you know, and it's not until later in life that, you know, the time thing catches up and they're like, wait, I'm gonna die one day pretty soon here, and what am I doing? Like it's like ticking away. Like people don't realize, like, you don't have forever. Like I don't know if I have another 50 years left in my life. It's not promised. And that truth, that thing is so easy to just like dismiss. You're like, well, I can't, like it's almost like an adaptation or a coping mechanism for us dealing with the finiteness of our lives. It's like we cognitively know that, yeah, my life is going to end, but we don't live like it. You don't fucking live like it. But truly, somebody who has 6 months to live, you know, they have that fire inside to say, well, I only got 6 months. I'm going to go do the things that I fucking want to do, you know? And I just feel this without that impending death. But I also know that it could happen any day. And I want to live fully expressed. I don't want to be held back. I don't want anything to stop me from being what is me. But back to the work that I'm doing. It's to become fully expressed, to allow yourself to be that. It's a path that is not easy, right? It's like I'm having to do this deep internal work, deep like childhood, inner child work that is something that, quite frankly, I was not really understanding what it was like to reach back into the little version of me that I abandoned and left and ignored for so long. I'm learning through very painful, discoveries, why certain things bother me in my life now, for example, and then digging into, well, what was it? What's coming up for me? What am I needing? What am I wanting? What is that little version of me inside saying? That's been saying, but I've ignored it for all these years. And one example is being ignored. Right? I fucking hate being ignored. If I say something in a conversation and you leave me without responding for a day, it twists me up inside, right? I'm just like, why the fuck can't you be decent? And if somebody walks up to you and asks you a question and you have a relationship with this person, would you look at them and not say anything and not ignore them, or just not say anything back? Imagine your friend, a good friend of yours, somebody you care about, walks up to you and asks you a question or shares something with you. Would you look at them and not respond to them at all for hours or even days, but still stay there, right? And so in my mind, I'm like, well, people don't hold that same kind of respect for when you're communicating. It's if we're in a conversation and you just, without saying anything, without making the other person aware, just stop responding. This is what I mean, of being ignored. It fucking triggers me. It really fucking bothers me. And because I'm on this path, I'm starting to inquire, well, it's not so much what this other person not responding to you is doing. What they're doing is what they're doing, right? Maybe they're just inconsiderate. Maybe they're busy. Maybe a little bit of both. But what you say and feel and do about that is what you're doing to yourself, right? Garrain says, what they did is what they did. But the stories that you tell about what they did is what you're doing to yourself. And so this work makes me dig in, whereas I would never have even imagined or thought, what is it that I'm needing? Why does this bother me so much? Why am I not free in this place? Aside from just being better at communicating what I need from people that I'm communicating with, in a way that's not accusing them, just saying, hey, I would really appreciate if you did this, right? I'm realizing, and I realized through a conversation and discovery, that the reason that this bothers me so much is because I've ignored that little version of me inside for so long, that I've been ignoring the little me. And that's why it hurts so much. That's why it bothers me so much. And that if I just give attention and space and time and, care for this inner child that has felt ignored, then that wound has the opportunity to heal. And let me tell you, this is such a different, radical way to look at the things that trigger me in particular. It's like diving in and being curious. Darren says when something upsets you, triggers you, something bad happens, you reply with, thanks, coach. What are you here to show me? What are you here to illuminate and teach me? Thank you for showing me something. What is it? I'm getting curious. And while I recognize that a lot of people will have a hard time with it, I also recognize that I believe that toxic positivity is a thing, right? I think spiritual bypassing is a thing. that trying to be happy all the time is and can be like borderline mental illness, right? That's not how we're wired. That's not how you work. You're supposed to have a range of emotions, and they all serve a purpose. But the fact that you can rewire and reframe and seek out something good out of a situation and look at it from the point of view that says, well, what is this emotion, this pain, this trigger saying to me about what I need, about what I desire, about what I want, about what the little version of me wants or has wanted or has never had in my life. There's been things that have come up in me that I didn't realize about myself, about my childhood, about the things I wanted from my mom that I didn't get. You know, the things that I wanted from my dad that I didn't get. And it has nothing to do with them being a good or bad parent. It has everything to do with they weren't in touch with their inner child. They had their own upbringing. They had their own wounds. They were dealing with their own shit in life. And they were still trying their best to provide for me, to live for me, to do their fucking best. And to those who had parents who weren't around, who didn't give a shit, who were violent or evil, quote unquote, to them, even those people were doing the best they knew how to do, given their heart, their minds, and the way that they were raised and how they cope, right? They were dealing with some heavy, heavy pain. And that's almost certainly, I mean, I would bet everything that's why they inflicted pain on you. And so, as I'm climbing this mountain and I'm thinking about my life and thinking about where I'm going and how I'm getting there and with who, I can feel the greatness in me, the bigness of who I am, saying, hey, I've been here this whole time and I'm here if you'll let me come out. And I am fully ready to own that. I'm fully ready to allow myself to be as fucking big as I fucking have always wanted to be. Because I am worthy of the life that I want. The big, fully expressed life that I want in every area of my life. That this whole idea of being unworthy, not good enough, like these things are rooted in past wounds and traumas and experiences that have pushed down and stuffed down my bigness into a small container. But I cannot be contained. It always wants to come out. And so I'm done resisting. I'm done fighting it. And I'm committed to doing the fucking work that I need to do to release the resentment, to release the old pain, to release the old trauma, to heal the little version of me. You know, even in just this little bit of time that I've been doing this inner child work, I had the craziest experience the other day, and I shared it with a few people in my mastermind and a few people outside. You know, Garrain had us do this exercise where we literally hugged ourselves and like just allowed ourselves to fall and to give ourselves the hug that we maybe have been wanting from one of our parents, and to fully embrace yourself in that way. And I was uncomfortable, you know, doing this in front of 50 other people. But again, everyone else's eyes closed, doing their own thing. It was uncomfortable. I didn't really, you know, I felt something. I didn't really feel that much. As I can feel, I'm very able to feel things. But the next day, I sat down for a live meditation with the musician, the artist Landrell on Instagram. And As I closed my eyes, this is the hard part. As I closed my eyes, before he even started speaking, I sat down, closed my eyes, took a breath in, and immediately I saw 6-year-old, 5-year-old Albert sitting Indian style, looking up at me. Like he was sitting with me. Like his energy was so sweet and so beautiful. Like I loved him in that moment. I felt just so much pure love for this little child that has been living inside of me. And he just looked up in this curious, sweet way, like, what are you doing? What are you doing here? I want to see what you're doing. And that was the first time in my life that I've ever had an experience where I saw my little version of me like that. And so what that told me later, I mean, as soon as it happened, I just started crying. I literally just tears falling. Meditation hadn't even started. I just felt so much love for this little boy inside that has been asking for me. It's been being ignored by me by not expressing what is mine to express. And I realized that the work that I'm doing with Garrain and these people has made little Albert feel safe enough to come out and be curious. Now, later on that day and the next day, you know, issues come up and this trigger happens. And it's discovered that, you know, like the whole ignoring thing, it's discovered that, oh, little Albert doesn't trust you. He doesn't fully trust you. He was curious, like a little kid is, but he's also wary because you've hurt him. You've ignored him for so long. Are you going to continue to ignore him? Because if so, he's going to hide. And so as soon as I made that realization that I've been ignoring him, and that's why I feel so much pain when I'm ignored, and I could do something about it, and I could speak to that little version of me and say, hey, I'm not going to ignore you anymore. I'm not going to leave you behind anymore. And that's really powerful. And I can feel myself getting bigger. I can feel myself allowing more of my expression to come out. And so stepping into my bigness means being all of me and not being scared of what the fuck anyone else has to say. Because in reality, what most people will say is, oh my God, look at how beautiful this human being is. Look at how fully expressed they are. I wish I could be like that, because I looked at Garrain in that way. But Garrain's a reflection of me. Now, the only reason I see this in Garrain is because it lives inside of me. And so all of the things that you want, these desires, things that you admire and love about other people, they're all reflections of who you are. It lives inside of you. Now, most people don't believe that. Most people have all of these deep wounds that belong to this inner child that they've been ignoring their whole life. And so, if you have the opportunity and the courage, I would encourage you to see if you can sit and find a place where that inner child of yours feels safe enough to come out and show you where it hurts, so that you can address those things and you can release the limits and the blocks that are stopping you from being and stepping into your full bigness. So one exercise that Garrain talks about in a very powerful reel is that he wrote himself a letter. He wrote the little version. He wrote little Garrain a letter. And then he switched his hand to his non-dominant writing hand and wrote back a letter from little Garrain to big Garrain, and allowed the these emotions to come up, and he describes how all these insane emotions came up for him. And I'm committed to doing the same thing. I haven't done it yet. I have a feeling that this exercise is going to be a big deal for me. You know, there's also the part of me is like, how are you going to write with your left hand? Blah, 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 blah. You know, all bullshit, excuses, reasons to not do this kind of work. But I am committed to allowing everything that's preventing me from being my biggest self, releasing all of that. Because I know that this little version of me has been longing to express himself, and I'm not going to prevent him from doing that anymore. And I want to be an example, just like Garrain has been an example for me, to show others what that looks like, and to allow others that relate with me to see that and give them the courage of being in their full bigness. Because this world, really, at the core of the problems of this world, the root cause of all of the pain and suffering and troubles in this world is that these adults are deteriorated children, like Garrain says, and they're all operating from places of wounding and hurt and pain and baggage and resentment and all of this pain. But if you go in deep and you heal that part, you can change the world. You literally would change the world if everyone could tap into that version of themselves. Because if you just watch kids, how they play, how they are with each other, how they interact, they definitely don't act like the way adults act. It's only when they learn how to adapt and act like adults, or how they've been treated in bad ways, that they reflect that behavior, right? So anyway, this has been my longest episode, but it is about stepping into my full bigness. And from this point on, I don't give a shit. My talks will not be limited to just 10 minutes. They'll be however long I want them to be, however long I want to express. And that's just being bigger and taking up more space and believing that I'm worthy of being somebody that people will actually listen to for 30 minutes. Being somebody who feels worthy of getting on stage and giving a TED Talk that goes viral and impacts people all over the world. Because that's me in my full expression and in my bigness. And with that, I'm at the top of this mountain. I want to tell you that I love you. Big blessings. Have a fantastic day.